Hi, it's Mark Owen from Moose Marks PR, the editor of Punchline magazine. Today, I have the pleasure of the company of Dale Vince, Britain's
Uh,
leading green energy industrialist, a former New Age traveller. He's the owner of Ecotricity, the electricity company Ecotricity, and the chairman of Forest Green Rovers. Welcome to Punchline Talks. Dale, thanks ever so much for joining us today.
That's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No worries, no worries. What's the size of the company at the moment, if you don't mind me asking, the sort of turnover and how many people work for you?
Yeah, sure. We're about 240 million turnover, I think, and about 750 people, something like that in total in the group.
And how's COVID affected the company? Have you had to furlough people? Have you had to let people go? What's the situation with you guys at the moment?
We haven't had to let people go. But we've furloughed some people from the energy company. I think it was about 50 people right at the beginning of all of this. At the football club, it was bigger because we had a lot of part-time staff. I think it's about 150 people in total across the whole group. Football's back now. The staff are back anyway. The impacts have been quite big. Obviously, football was shut down. And it's just coming back. And we had a pilot game at the weekend with fans for the first time. But of course, we hear today that the return of fans to stadia is now being paused. The impact on the energy company was severe at the beginning because everybody went home. Businesses shut down. Demand for energy fell off a cliff. The price went with it. And we were in all kinds of uncharted territory. That stabilized within probably a couple of months. We had also about 700 people to kind of organize to work from home, which is a really big deal. We did that over a period of about a week. So we learned a lot. We were very busy, but here we are now wondering what's coming next.
And that's exactly right, isn't it? The government's got its plans. We're waiting for it. So how did you organize the everybody working from home like that? Was that a real challenge, or did you have the processes in place? Do you already, a lot of your guys work from home?
No, we had some work from home experience already, but our guys in IT were quite foresighted, I would say, because they ordered hundreds of laptops before lockdown was ordered. And so it was really technology that enabled us to do it. We've got a very modern phone system that can route calls to people's mobiles or home phones seamlessly anyway. And then with laptops and taking some desktops home as well, we're able to keep everybody connected. So it's technology that helped us do that.
And moving forward, this interview is actually going to be part of the big green issues, the next Punchline magazine that we're bringing out. Unfortunately, we used to always print one, but we can't do that at the moment, so we're putting it online. And the last one we did was really, really popular. So obviously, the environmental is such a big issue, but how do you think COVID is going to change it? Do you see this as a game changer?
I certainly did. The experience of the first lockdown made me very optimistic about that, because as a country, we found 300 billion to throw at this virus problem this year. And we endured enormous changes to the way that we live. And by contrast, in order to fight climate change and get to zero carbon, that 300 billion was a 10-year zero carbon budget. So it dwarfs what we need to do to fight climate change. And the changes to our lifestyle also in the virus lockdown were, dwarfed what we need to do to fight climate change. So I was very optimistic that it showed us what we were capable of doing when we could perceive an immediate existential threat. Because the problem with climate crisis is that it is existential, but it's nothing like immediate. It's too far out in the future. But I do worry at the moment that we end up getting virus fatigue, lockdown fatigue. We may have I don't think we'll have a full second lockdown, but I think, we're going to have degrees of lockdown now for maybe 6 to 12 months. And while there was great optimism after the first lockdown that we would come back, all of us wanting to do better, appreciating clear skies, hearing birds, clean air, that kind of stuff, I think maybe quite possibly the fatigue that sets in will make people forget all about that and just want to get back to normal. But I hope not. And, we'll be doing what we can to prevent that.
I mean, I totally agree with you. I just think that people at the very beginning, it was, with less planes, there were less cars, the air was fresher, and people are just going to drift back into their normal lives. They want their lives back. They've had enough of this. Yeah. And You know, we want to go and watch our favourite football teams and drink pints with our friends, and that's the big issue, isn't it? How does a company like yours try and change the mindset? I know that you're involved with you know, various organisations, but how do you do that? What's your next step?
Well, for us, it's about information primarily. So we began in energy because it was the single biggest source of climate emissions. We spotted that in the early 90s. I dropped back in from living on the road to try and build a big windmill. In the early 2000s, I went looking for the second and third biggest, found transport and food, and joined that up into a vision, because 80% of all carbon emissions are in the way that we power ourselves, the way that we travel, and what we eat. And that's our very simple message to people. And you can see that working really well at the football club, where we brought the environment into, I would say, a very challenging place and audience, football. I've succeeded, I think, incredibly in doing that. We're about 10 years into that project now. And we simply talk to people on those terms. We say we need to change how we live. We need to change how we power ourselves and how we travel and what we eat. They're very simple changes described at that level. And it's completely within our power. As individuals, 80% of our impact is driven by the things we spend money on every day. So that makes us actually quite powerful in this change agenda. So it starts there for us. And then as a business, we've been pioneering the answers. So green energy, for example. We set up in 1995 the world's first green energy company. In the early 2000s, we set about building an electric car, because we realized that in transport, one of the biggest impacts is car use, and we had to change that. So we built the Nemesis, Britain's first electric supercar. Then we built the electric highway so that other people could charge their cars and drive around the country. And we've been pushing for a vegan or plant-based diet for, you know, many, many years, including in football, where we've had, I think, the most impact with that. So the solutions exist in energy, transport, and food. It's about renewable energy, it's about electric transport, and it's about plant-based eating, and that's our work.
Wow. So it's all connecting it together.
Yeah.
Where did you, if you don't mind me asking, where were you born? What's your sort of early background? Are you from the Stroud Valleys and then toured around? Where did you go to school?
I was born in Norfolk, and I lived there probably till I was about 18, and then I hit the road. And I first came to Stroud probably in the early 90s, and I was just in Stroud, living in a trailer, my trailer, on a hill, kind of temporarily, because it was always temporarily back then, when I had the idea to drop back in and build a big windmill. I had a little windmill on the roof of my trailer by then, so I was kind of familiar with renewable energy. I've been concerned about sustainability since I was a kid, worried about where all the petrol was coming from, why nobody was talking about when it would run out, because it had to run out. This was in the 70s, so I've been probably driven. Go on.
So was that led by your parents, or was it just awareness around you?
No, it's just me.
Right, okay, sorry.
That's all right. Yeah. No, I mean, that's it really. I think I've been driven by sustainability issues, you know, all of my life. And living on the road for 10 years was about trying to find a different way to live. And, you know, sustainability kind of underpinned that as well. The lack of sustainability in modern life. And of course, it's worse now than it was in the 70s or the 80s. It's much worse. But this is what we have to tackle, because the climate crisis is such a big deal. But the virus crisis gives us just a taste of the disruption that the climate crisis will bring. You know, it's like a warning shot or a slap around the face. You know, I hope that we can take lessons from it. And actually, this kind of stuff we're doing now, this kind of Zoom interview, you know, there's a lot of that going on now. And before lockdown, you know, I was kind of struggling to get organizations to accept that I would take part in conferences and things by video link, and now it's the new normal, which I think is fantastic. So there's at least one small change coming out of this, which is that it's become normal for us not to travel to do interviews and conferences and meetings and stuff like that, and I think that's really helpful.
It's quite funny actually how many people still want to see you face to face though. You know, I've got 3 face-to-face meetings this week, and each one I've tried to bat back and say, well, I can do it by Zoom. They still want to see you. Maybe they just want to see me. I don't know.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. So when you first started Ecotricity, did you have a business partner? Did you have somebody that came along the journey with you, believed in what you were saying? How did that bit happen? Because we all need good people, don't we? We all need a kind of somebody else to.
Yeah, we all need a bit of help somewhere along the way. Well, living on this hill was probably where it all began. Had a little woman on my trailer. The guy that owned the hill lived there in an old caravan with nothing, no lights, no electricity, nothing. And it was transformative for him when I moved on and put a little windmill on an old telegraph pole for him, plugged it into a battery and some lights. It really changed his life. And then, so when I had the idea to try and build a big windmill on this hill, he was completely sold on the idea. He said, yeah, let's do it. I mean, the guy at the time was, I think, mid-70s or something like that. Fantastic character. And he just said, let's do it. And so he gave me the space, really, to pursue that first windmill. It took 5 years to achieve, a lot of battles along the way. And then just before we built the windmill, I realized that to build the next one, I had started to think about that actually I needed a fair price for the power. And so I went to see the local energy company. They were monopoly buyers. They laughed at the idea of green energy. And so the idea was born to actually become an energy company and cut out the middleman to get this fair price to reach the end user with this new product, green electricity. And so Ecotricity was born in about 1995. But I would say, you know, the one guy that really believed in the whole windmill thing, the rest was, you know, not even dreamt of at the time, was my old partner, Brian Davis.
All right. Are you still partners now? Is he still involved in the business?
He died a few years into the project. He didn't see the windmill built, but he was convinced that it would be. And really, you know, apart from me and him, nobody else was. You know, we're talking early 90s. Wind energy, modern wind energy was new. I was a hippie living on a hill with no money, not education, but no qualifications, and that kind of stuff. So it was a kind of radical idea from a fairly unconventional person. And yeah, nobody believed it was going to happen. So except for me and him.
It's funny how you meet people along your journey, isn't it? That have such a massive impact on you. Where did the iconic green flag comes from? Because I've always loved it, by the way. I've always admired you for that. It's just brilliant.
Thank you. EDF loved it as well in the year of the Olympics, and they stole it from us, and we had to fight a court battle to get it back. And
right.
And this government loved it so much, they also stole it a few months ago, or about a year ago probably, and we had to beat them in court as well. Where it came from is we did a piece of work with a little agency called Host many years ago now, more than 10 years ago. And they came up with something similar, but it was a much more of a Union Jack with blue in it and that kind of stuff. And we looked at that and really liked the idea of the identity that comes from the flag. But felt that we'd impose our colors on it and put some black and green and white into it. So it was a kind of hybrid, really, sparked by Host and finished by us.
Moving on to where we are now, obviously you're looking at just Junction 13, where you're hoping to move the football ground to. How's that progressing? Is it sort of just all being kicked into the long grass, you know, with COVID or you know, plans still going ahead? I mean, I think it's really exciting project. Again, you've got lots of stuff going on at the moment along Gloucestershire. We've got the new cyber centre, got obviously Gloucestershire here, and then we've got hopefully you guys down there. Is it moving forward the right direction, Dale? Yeah,
it is. We got planning permission probably about a month ago. We've been in planning 5 or 6 years, so I think we came out of the long grass despite lockdown. And that's planning permission for the football stadium, which would be an all wooden thing designed for us by Zaha Deeds Practice. It's really an amazing piece of architecture. The site itself is, my camera is sat on a model of it, so I'm just looking at it. The site itself is 100 acres on Junction 13 of the M5. And what we're hoping to build there is not just a wooden football stadium that FGR can you know, live in and become a championship football club in, but also a 4,000 job green tech business park. There's the restoration of a missing piece of canal. We're going to create some wetland between the canal and the river that's there, plant a few thousand trees and a few kilometers of hedgerows, and achieve an actual 16% boost in biodiversity with the all of that development, the business park, the football stadium and everything, over today's baseline. So today's baseline is farmland. And what I think that shows is that we can build stuff, and we can build stuff in a way that accommodates nature, which I think is really important. I mean, you could call it sustainable development, people do. And that's what we're going to really push the envelope of at this place we call Eco Park.
Do you think it should be mandatory for every business park to have solar panels built on the roof and you know, every new house should have solar panels. I'll be honest, if you want to restart a green, you know, evolution, or even an industry, as we might have to, you know, why can't the government do that? Would that be something that you go along with? Or I don't know the manufacturing of solar panels. I don't know if that's bad for the environment or what.
No, totally. We should do that. I mean, we had a code for new homes up until I think maybe 5 years ago. The Conservatives knocked it on the head, but the whole house building industry was bought into it. It was code that was leading eventually to zero carbon homes with solar panels and all that kind of stuff. It's totally doable, and it's exactly the kind of thing that we've got to do in order to build this green economy and build our way to a you know, zero carbon country that we need to be. But we have a lot of anomalies in our system at the moment. So, you know, if you or I want to buy solar panels to put on our roofs, we pay 20% VAT. If we want to burn coal to keep warm, we pay 5% VAT.
Right,
Explain that one.
Yeah. No.
So we've got to shift today's kind of policy bias away from fossil fuels and towards renewable energy. We just got to reverse the positions. You know, we spend 10 billion a year supporting fossil fuels still as a country. We spend 8 billion supporting renewable energy. We need to shift that 10 billion from over here to over here so that we're spending the 18 billion supporting renewable energy. We're at like just over 30% renewable energy now for the country. When I began, it was about 1%. And we've shown that, we've shown just how far we can go. National Grid say themselves that we can go much further. You know, next 10 years, I think they recently predicted we could get to 65% green on the grid, which would be a fantastic achievement. I think we can go further than that. But what we need is government to change the policy approach, change regulations, just skew the market, because at the moment it's skewed towards fossil fuels. We need to skew it the other way to the good stuff.
How did you feel when Donald Trump pulled out the climate agreement?
Well, I mean, part of me was bemused and part of me was not surprised. You know, he's a rogue operator. And I think the US has become a rogue nation, actually, certainly on climate issues. So, you know, I shrugged and said, well, you know, I mean, he's not going to be president forever.
No.
And his time may come in November. I think as soon as he's not president, he's going to be locked up. The only thing keeping him out of prison right now is being president.
Yeah, it's probably why he hangs in there, isn't it, really? You know, he's just a disruptor, really, at the end of the day, that dead cat on the table stuff. Going back to, I don't know the story of how you got into Forest Green Rovers. How did you do that? How did that come about? So Ecotricity was bubbling along or doing very well, and then...
Yeah, it was 2010, summer of 2010, and Forest Green Rovers is like our local football club. You know, it's on the edge of Stroud, and I'd read in the local paper that they had money problems, relegation problems, that kind of stuff, and somebody from the club reached out. I went to see them, watched the game in August, I think it was, and it was a lovely place, lovely people, 120-year-old football club, and they said, we just need 30 grand to get through the summer for cash flow, and I thought, well, we can do that, so let's do that. And then at the end of the summer, they started saying to me, actually, we need a lot more money than that, and we think you should be chairman. And I was like, oh my God, I'm way too busy for that. But it was a stark choice: take responsibility for the club or see it fold. So I just said, oh, well, let's do that without a plan or anything like that. I just said, well, let's give it a go. How hard can it be?
And the rest, they say, is history.
Yes.
So
that's right. I mean, I was going to say, immediately we bumped into the issues that we couldn't live with. You know, the things that are done in football that are normal in football that we didn't like, and also the sustainability issues around the club. You know, like food was the big one. We changed the menu, and that got us all the attention. But we realized very quickly that we had to bring our ethics and our values into the club, and through that we had an opportunity to talk to the world of football and the world of sport, not just our own fans, but the wider world of, and create a really green football club and use it as a platform. And so we said, let's do that.
Did that bit come by accident? Was that just a kind of add-on once you bought the football club and you got into it and thought, oh, actually, all these things are going to happen along?
Yeah, it was like we didn't buy the club, just took responsibility for it and its debts and its problems. And yeah, like I said, we just decided to do it without thinking the consequences through, and then immediately bumped into the consequences, which was that we have to change how the club works fundamentally. And in the process of doing that, we're going to have to create a green football club. Why not make something from that? You know, let's roll with that and see how far we can take it.
Now, one of the things I always like to ask business people all the time, and be very fortunate in this job to meet lots of business guys like yourself, is there sort of, well, their top 3 tips for business. And I know you've got a book coming out as well. But let's have your top 3 tips, please.
Yeah, my favorite is don't listen to anybody else, actually,
Right,
because
okay.
I'm not a fan of advice, giving it or receiving it, and I think a lot of people's experiences don't translate to somebody else's. Circumstances are different, people are different, so I don't think you can learn lessons universally or readily from other people's experience. So I would say, don't be too keen to listen to other people. Don't take no for an answer would be my second one. It's served me well. I mean, it's stuff that I believe in kind of, passionately. If it's something I really want to do, then I won't take no for an answer. I won't accept that it can't be done. I think quite often in life, I've found that people say, well, if it was that easy, somebody would have done it already. And I think that's a lazy analysis, because somebody has to do something for the first time always. And, maybe that's going to be you. So that's what I would say.
Okay. What's your? You got a book coming out? I've been promised a few copies, by the way.
Have you? Okay, cool.
for a competition for Punchline readers. So that's kind of neat.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
I hope you're okay about that. A few signed copies.
Of course. Yeah, no, of course.
So what's the book? What is the book, and what's it called? When's it coming out? And how do you get a copy?
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, it's available for pre-order on the FGR website. And we're signing them. I'm signing them, but we've got a dedication box for people for pre-order. It's published by Penguin, comes out at the end of November, and it's called Manifesto. It's got the flag on the cover, and really it kind of it follows my 10 years on the road, talks about that and what I learned on the road, which I think was really fundamental for me. It really did shape me. And then dropping into the world of business in the early 90s, how I've tried to create a different kind of capitalism, different kind of business to pursue an environment outcome, not a money outcome. The journey through energy, transport, and food, the solutions that we've pursued, and it all kind of rounds up in chapter 13, which itself is called Manifesto, which is a plan. And it's a high-level plan for the country. It translates to individuals and organizations as well. That's what I love about the universal blueprint of energy, transport, and food. But it's high-level and also fairly detailed in terms of what we need to change, like the subsidies for fossil fuels. Essentially, I'm saying that we need to end fossil fuels. We need to power ourselves with renewable energy. We need to electrify transport, and we need to end factory farming. And if we do all of that, the changes to our world, to our country, to the way we live, are just phenomenal. And that's in chapter 13. And then something special in the epilogue, some technology that we're about to unleash on the world in about 3 weeks' time. Something we've been working on for more than 5 years. So
wow. Okay.
It's got a bit in there.
So how long did it take you actually to write the book?
Took a month.
A month? Oh, right. Oh,
yeah.
Not, is that during lockdown, was it? Was that the idea?
It was during lockdown. There were 8 to 10 hour days, 7 days a week. And I mean, the problem was I'd agreed to do it at the start of the year, been kind of toying with the idea for years. And then Penguin came along and asked, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And I didn't really kind of pay much attention to the deadline. And then suddenly I had like 2 weeks to go. I was 2 weeks late with it, but I spent that month, that 2 weeks plus 2 weeks, just at my keyboard slaving away. But it was the right way for me to do it personally, because I was driven by the deadline, and it was very intense, and I was immersed in it, and it was I really enjoyed it. So yeah, it took a month, but right. It's got a lot in it.
Do you think there'll be other books to follow? I mean, Adam Henson, I spoke to him, I think it was Monday, and no, it was, sorry, Thursday last week. It doesn't matter anyway. But he told me about a book as well. He'd written a book too during lockdown, and he's written a children's book. Is that something that would you could see that? Would you do more books? Is this something that you got the? I suppose you don't have the time, but
yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. You know, for many years I avoided writing one. Thought I didn't have the time, or it wasn't the time to do it. I hadn't kind of done enough to warrant putting it into a book, and now I've done one. So I think there's a great possibility, because what I've really enjoyed is the putting down of the stuff I've learned, and how that's turned into kind of in effect a plan, policy recommendations, stuff like that. I'm at this point in my life very keen on using a different approach to bringing change. So up until now, I began by pursuing this myself personally, a low impact lifestyle. Then I dropped in and tried to use business to create change, and I think I've done quite a bit through that medium. And now I'm thinking that actually politics is the way to bring the greatest, fastest change, and that's what we need right now in terms of the climate crisis. You know, we've got to move quickly and we've got to move dramatically. So I'm starting to think about policy and politics.
You mentioned politics and all the rest of it. I don't want to go into too much details because we're running out of time, but I know that maybe I've got this wrong, but you've helped Extinction Rebellion as well. Is that right? Or, you know, in the past, do you think they went a bit too far with the Daily Mail Times blockading that bit? Was that a step too far? You know, or that's a legitimate, you know.
I understand the question. I think it's easy to see that as an own goal, easy to portray it that way. But I think equally you could look at that and say, wow, look at the reaction of the establishment, you know, the government and the right-wing media when they were challenged. It was only a blockade, what was it, for a day or two or something like that? I mean, it was a marginal impact on them, but look at the reaction. I mean, Extinction Rebellion were threatened with being classified as organized criminals, for God's sake. And so, you know, part of me thinks that was a very provocative action, and they've kind of showed us the really sensitive spot of the government and of the right-wing media, and I think it was valid. You know, I mean, essentially what they're saying is that these media outlets are not doing enough. In fact, they're doing the opposite. You know, they're kind of arguing against climate change. They're holding us back when they could be doing so much more. The climate crisis is way too important to allow a handful of right-wing media outlets that really dominate the media voice in our country, and they're all owned by foreign tax exile billionaires, you know, who don't live here and don't really care about what happens here. It's wrong to allow them to continue in that vein. So, you know, I think they're right in principle. It's easy to see it was an own goal in media terms because of the reaction that they provoked, but I think actually that shows the merit of the action itself.
Last question, G First LEP, they've got this campaign, This is Gloucestershire. If you had one sort of rallying cry to the business community of Gloucestershire during this crisis, just to wrap up, what would that be, Dale? What would you say to everybody? You had every single business person here in front of you, all cheering, flag waving, whatever. What would you say to them?
I would say, take a look at what it is you do in your business, in your life. They're probably quite similar things. Most businesses are like that. And adopt a zero carbon target, maybe 2030, and look to your business and plot yourself a roadmap. Tackle energy, transport, and food, only those three things, and you'll do 80% of everything that needs to be done. But if you can also change your business to adopt environment-friendly products or services, which will enable other people to change their lives, consumers, then I would say do that, because this is the path. You know, we're seeing it with the big oil companies. For example, BP announced a couple of weeks ago that in the next 10 years, they will cut oil and gas production by 40%. I mean, it's like a supermarket announcing they're going to cut sales by 40%, except it isn't, because BP are going to flip into renewable energy. And I would say to all businesses, you need to flip into the positive stuff, the stuff that's going to help us save the world.
Dale, thanks ever so much for today. Really great to talk to you. Really great to see you, and all the very best for the future. Hopefully we'll meet up very soon.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Cheers.